Today I'm going to take you through a hamstring release sequence. This is a really good sequence if you're experiencing low back pain. It's a good way to open up the lower back by stretching through the back of your legs. So we're going to start in standing. This is a lovely flow to start warming you up into a dynamic stretch. Your one leg goes in front of you and then slide your foot along the floor until the leg's behind you. Use the muscle in the back of your thigh, your hamstring, to pick your heel up towards your bottom and then pull that leg all the way up and in towards your face. Hold it here. You're going to see if you can straighten out that leg. Lower your foot down to the floor. Keep your toes there. Hinge at your hip and then lower your heel to intensify that stretch. And then you're going to come back up. Slide the leg back behind you. Hamstring curl, heel to bottom. Pick the leg up in front of you. See if you can straighten it out as much as you can from the hip, keeping your back in neutral. Lower your leg down to the floor, toes touch. Hinge forwards, heel down, return to stand. So you're going through that full range of movement, using each part of the muscle from behind the hip all the way down to behind the knee. And try and keep your lower back still as you go through this. And just one more, slide back, hamstring curl, pull all the way up in front of you. Keep it here, back straight as you kick out in front of you. Toes to the ground, keep your toes pointed. Flex forwards to increase that stretch. Drop your heel and then return all the way up to stand. Now we're going to turn to face the other way. Same thing, start with pointed toes, one leg out in front of you. Slide that leg back behind you, keeping your spine in neutral. Then hamstring curl, leg comes up. Keep your back straight as you kick that leg forwards. Tap your foot down onto the ground and lower your hip so your back is flat with the floor. And then drop your heel to increase that stretch. Return to stand and we'll go through the flow again. Leg drags back behind you. Hamstring curl to your bottom. Leg all the way up towards you and kick it out straight. Tap your toes down. Stretch by bending through your hip. Drop your heel. Return to stand. Just keep that sequence flowing. Challenge your balance on that one side at the same time. And try not to round your spine as you go through this. Last one, slide back behind you. Hamstring curl. Float the leg up towards your face. Kick it out straight. Tap the foot down towards the floor. Keep your back flat as you pivot from your hip. Heel down, return to stand. Okay, so now we've warmed up that muscle, we're going to come into some release work on the mat. So I'm using a trigger point massage ball. It's a nice firm ball that we can use. Feels much like a thumb or an elbow getting into those muscles. One leg is going to step up and in towards me, and then the other leg is going to rest down onto the trigger point ball. So I've got it about mid-thigh to begin with. I'm going to tense my quads, so squeeze my thigh to sink the leg down into the ball. And then we can just hold that there, anywhere that feels a bit tight, a bit sore, from anywhere between 30 and 90 seconds to release that. Now if, like me, you're struggling to get right up into a flat back position because of tight hamstrings, then what we're going to do is take a small cushion or folded towel. We're just going to place that underneath our sitting bones, and that's going to tip us forwards a little bit more so that we can create a flat lower back. Alright, second place, I'm going to travel up my hamstring a little bit more, squeeze my thigh, and then with that flat back I'm going to nudge into the stretch and then back out of the stretch. Into the stretch and then back out the stretch. So I'm just finding any tight points through the back of my leg, and again holding each spot for 30 to 90 seconds until it starts to release off. And we're going to go through 3 to 5 points on each side. And you can move the ball outside, inside of thigh, wherever you feel in your hamstring is the most tension. And another nice one, once you've found a trigger point spot, is to roll your leg in and out. Toes pointed out, toes pointed in. So somewhere that's got that elbow massaging into your hamstring and moving it around to give it a nice release. And it shouldn't take more than 90 seconds maximum to release. So if it's still sore after 90 seconds, just move around that point rather than staying on it. Okay. So stay with this side if you've got a few more. I'm going to change to the opposite side. So travelling round, I'm going to bring the cushion with me underneath sit bones, to bring me up nice and high, get a flat back. Finding a new spot for the hamstring, I'm going to start close down behind the knee this time. Flex my toes towards my face, point the toes. Trying to keep my back flat and a little lean so I feel the hamstring tug. And the whole time, if we tense our quad, tense the front of our thigh, it's going to push the back of the thigh down into the ball. Again, each spot 30 to 90 seconds until it releases off. And then next one, I'm going to come halfway up and I'm going to roll my thigh in and out, and there I can feel much more tension as I roll outwards, so I'm going to focus on that. Just massaging that part of my thigh into the ball by rolling my foot out and in. And even apply a little roll with your hands if that feels comfortable, just to give it a little bit more pressure. And I'm still trying to keep my low back flat. So you can do this with a foam roller too. You have a foam roller but not a ball. But you just have to carry quite a bit of weight in your hands to get your foam roller underneath your thigh. And I'm going to do one more point on this side. I'm going to go dead centre of my thigh and right up before my bottom starts, pressing down through my thigh and easing body weight through it and release. I'm going to press down, ease through and release. So with tight hamstrings, they can pull on our sitting bones and make our lower back very rounded instead of the natural arch and curve that we should have. You can flatten that out. And that opens up the back of our pelvis and leaves the joints of our pelvis really vulnerable. I'm going to do one more here. Alright, so now we've gone through a dynamic stretch and we've mobilised and released with the trigger point ball. We're going to come into a static stretch now. So this is why I'm stuck in a doorway, because we're going to need a straight wall. And what I'm going to do is bring my bottom right up against the wall and then slide my leg up the length of that wall. So a doorway works really, really well. You can have one leg at the door frame and the other leg shooting through the doorway. And the goal is, with this leg down straight, that our pelvis remains in neutral. So that means we don't want our lower back pressing down into the floor. We want to use the length and reach in this leg to try and create a little gap between us and the mat. So I can slide my hand underneath there and keep that throughout. We want pointed toes, otherwise it ends up too big of a nervy stretch. And right about there, you can see my leg's not totally flush with the wall. And if I come any further, I think I'm going to start to press my back into the mat. I can just about hold that arch there, so I'm going to hold it here. And we're going to hold it for 1 to 2 minutes on each side. Over that time, you'll get this creep in the muscle, this length will come. And by holding that other leg down straight, you're not tucking your tailbone underneath you, but creating that arch and that curve in your lower back once more. So once you're resting in this position, you can try and roll your leg out and see how that feels. Does that change the stretch down the back of your leg? Make sure you're not holding on to that leg. Let it go. Maybe roll your toes in and feel that come more to the inside of your leg. Keeping your toes pointed, otherwise it could be too much of a nerve tug. And then just focus on letting it go, so you're not holding any tension through your quad, through your back, through your tummy. Maybe even focusing on your breathing so you can make that happen. Breathing into your hands. Breathing out, relaxing into it. Squeeze your thigh, try and get your leg ever closer to the wall. And again, breathe in. Breathe out, leg comes closer to the wall, squeeze your thigh. And so over those 2 minutes, that's totally comfortable for me now. I can keep my pelvis in neutral because I've had a bit of muscle creep. I'm going to bring my bottom even closer towards the wall. So now my leg is coming into a straight position and I can still slide my hands underneath my lower back. So for the last little bit on this side, I can hold my biggest stretch. And once we can get that leg parallel with the wall, whilst keeping our pelvis in neutral, that's enough length for most of us. So when you're sitting at a chair and your hip is bent to 90, there should be enough length in that top part of your hamstring to stop your back from rounding underneath you, if you can maintain this stretch too. So once you've finished your 2 minutes on this leg, you're going to shuffle across your door frame to the other side and you're going to stretch the other leg for the same length of time. Rolling your toes out and in, breathing into your stretch, holding it here.